can kick your shoes off. And that's what people have to understand, that we are human.
Yes, that's important.
We are women before we are pastors' wives.
Yes. I can remember meeting you over 10 years ago, and I was in a place where I didn't feel like I had my voice. You know, being a pastor's wife for almost 30 years now, 10 years ago, I felt like I still was unsure about my purpose.
Wow. I think some of the misconceptions that people actually have for pastors' wives, saying that you got to wear this big old hat, and I have nothing against the hats, I'm just saying, wear these St. John suits, sit on the front row. I don't sit on the front row. If I'm on the front row, I'm with my husband. It's so many misconceptions that the pastor's wife has to be the choir director or, you know, have to know how to sing. I don't know how to sing, so no, I know how to pray. I know how to preach, and I know how to prophesy. And I am here with my dear friend. We're going to be talking today about season 1, The Secret Society of a Pastor's Wife. And so I thank God, Pastor Palmer, for just being here on the show today. I am just always excited to be in your presence.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline Renee Show. We are so excited to be here. I'm excited to be here because this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. Being a pastor's wife, needing some place to share information and resources and pain. So, Jacqueline, tell us what inspired you to do the Secret Society of a Pastor's Wife.
Oh my God. What inspired me was I have so many pastors' wives that actually comes to me that need to be prayed for, that need to be encouraged, that need to be poured into. And it just, you know, something that just kind of came in my spirit to basically do a podcast. Do a podcast because the world needs to hear, you know, the secret, you know, society of a pastor's wife. You know, when we think about the secret society, you know, we think that, you know, it's a special group of people that, you know, that is probably hid away or something like that. And so I believe sometimes pastors' wives do feel like they are hidden. And so, you know, that's why I was very encouraged when the Lord gave it to me to, you know, make sure that you talk about that secret society of a pastor's wife.
I love it. I love it. You know, each of us as pastors' wives have personal journeys that we've experienced as pastors' wives. You know, I can remember meeting you over 10 years ago, and I was in a place where I didn't feel like I had my voice. You know, being a pastor's wife for almost 30 years now, 10 years ago, I felt like I still was unsure about my purpose.
Wow.
And becoming a part of your group of women helped unlock that in me.
Wow.
So talk to me a little bit about your personal journey. What gave you the vision to create such an amazing place, safe place for pastors' wives to come and just talk about who they are?
I really want to hear that.
Yes. I think we all want to hear it.
Well, my personal journey, let me just say this. As a pastor's wife, a first lady, whatever they want to call us, the elect lady, the only lady, my journey was not like most pastors' wives. And I believe that's why God really put it in my heart to make sure that I, you know, talk about this even on the podcast about, you know, the different struggles that pastors' wives have. You know, although I hear a lot of pastors' wives have issues with, you know, even ministry, their husbands, their children. Yeah, I may have issues with my children, but, you know, far as my husband, I don't hate my husband. I love my husband.
Oh, say that again. Say that again. You what? You do not hate your husband? I do not hate
my husband. He don't get on my nerves all the time.
Yes.
But he does get on my nerves at times.
Yes.
But you know, I get so many pastors' wives that, come to me and have issues with their husbands. That's something that we're going to talk about on the podcast, because I don't want these women to suffer in silence. I want them to have a voice, like you said. I want them to understand that you can still have a voice but still be in submission. You can still have a voice.
That's good.
Yes.
Yes, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. Which leads me to my next question for you, which is about the misconceptions of a pastor's wife. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about what our role is, what we should be doing. I can even think back when I first married my husband, the first 5 years of being a pastor's wife, I took my shoes off. Yes, my shoes. In the church. And someone came up to me after service and said, First Lady, you really shouldn't take your shoes off, because the other First Ladies are going to do what you did. And I felt so devastated, because I felt like I couldn't be myself. And I went home, and my husband said to me, take your shoes off whenever you want. Maybe they'll take their shoes off too. So it encouraged me. So talk to me a little bit about some of the misconceptions people have about a pastor's wife, which really puts us in bondage.
It does. It does. And you know what? If you want to kick your shoes off,
yes,
you can kick your shoes off. And that's what people have to understand, that we are human.
Yes, that's important.
We are women before we are pastors' wives.
Yes.
And I believe, we forget that. We forget that, we wear this title, we wear this position, as a pastor's wife, but we forget that we hurt.
Yes.
We have emotions.
Yes.
We have our own opinions, ideas, all of these things. When God made us, He didn't make us to be cloned.
Yes.
Like somebody else. And so, I think it's great that you are yourself.
Yes.
Because we have to be ourselves, because that's the best version of who we are. And so, I think some of the misconceptions that people actually have for pastors' wives, saying that you got to wear this big old hat. And I have nothing against hats. I'm just saying, wear these St. John suits, sit on the front row. I don't sit on the front row. If I'm on the front row, I'm with my husband.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's so many misconceptions that the pastor's wife has to be the choir director, or, have to know how to sing.
Yes.
I don't know how to sing, so no, I know how to pray. I know how to preach, and I know how to prophesy.
Yes.
And so, it's just whoever God has called you to be. And let me just say this as well. Pastors' wives don't have to preach.
Come on.
A lot of people think now a pastor's wife should be a preacher.
Yeah.
All these other things that the world want to put on us.
Yes.
But we have to ask God, what am I supposed to do?
Yes.
And then be alongside your husband. And also, like your husband told you, what is your husband saying?
Yes.
And that's what pastors' wives have to go to their husbands. What do you want me to do in the ministry?
Yes.
How can I assist you?
Yes.
Because I'm your helpmate.
That's good. That's really, really good. So talk to us a little bit about, we have pastors' wives that are going to be watching. Let's give them a taste of what they're going to be experiencing here on the Jacqueline Renee Show. Like, tell me some of the topic matters we'll be discussing, subject matters.
Well, some of the subject matters, Pastor Palmer is going to be suffering in silence.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Suffering in silence we're going to talk about self-care. We're going to talk about mental health.
That's good. That's good.
We're going to talk about being a voice and not an echo. We're going to really talk about how to basically walk alongside that man of God, because some of us don't know how.
Yes.
We don't know what to do with our men of God that God has called. We're going to talk about, we need to know who's going to be in our circle.
Yes.
We need to know. I always say you need to have at least 5 prayer warriors.
Yes.
As a pastor's wife.
Yes.
I thank God for my prayer warriors, and I know you have your prayer warriors as well, but I'm telling you, without prayer, the ministry can't stand, your marriage can't stand, and your money can't stand.
Yes, come on.
So it's so important that we give this information inspiration and education to the pastors' wives, so they realize that they are not alone.
Yes, yes.
We're going to talk about, some pastors' wives are lonely. They're very lonely in ministry.
Yes.
Because a lot of the congregation basically, comes to the pastor all the time and looks over the pastor's wife. We're going to talk about those issues as well.
Yes.
Knowing your true identity, knowing who you are in Christ Jesus.
That is really good. Which leads us to, pastors' wives have very unique challenges. Number one, we have a special role.
Yes.
We are called to walk beside some anointed men of God.
Yes.
Who carry the glory and the anointing and the power of God in their lives. And if they're called to that, then we're called to hold them up in that. And so talk about some of the unique challenges that we'll be discussing on the Secret Society of Pastors' Wives. Because these are challenges that, some pastors' wives think they're in this by themselves.
Yes.
Until they hear about the challenges that we're all experiencing. So tell me some of those challenges that pastors' wives face.
Well, while you were saying that, something really came to mind is I had this one pastor's wife who actually came to me and was really talking to me about how she did something in the ministry and her husband didn't like how she did it. And so they got into a big argument over how she did this one thing and he didn't agree to it. So we're going to talk about, how to still love him when he is unlovable.
Yes. Oh, that's good. That is so good. That is good.
Yes. And I mean, we have to really look at, Pastor Palmer, we have to look at some of the things that pastors' wives actually don't want to talk about, don't want to share.
Yes.
So we're going to pull those things out in the podcast so we can actually talk about those secret things. Like we said, the secret society of a pastor's wife.
I love that. I love it. And as a pastor's wife, we wear so many hats, as we talked about a few minutes ago. We are spouses to our husbands. We are mothers to our children. Some of us are grandmothers. Some of us take care of our elderly parents. I mean, there's many hats that we wear. So talk to me a little bit about how we balance all of that and still have our identity as a woman, as a pastor's wife. How do we pull that out of ourselves to know that we still exist in the midst of everything else that we're doing in life?
Girl, that's what we do. We go and get massages.
Right. Yes, come on.
Go and get your massage.
Go take
ahead.
a trip.
Yes, do a girl trip. Get your nails done.
Yes.
Get your eyelashes done.
Yes.
All of those things just to pull yourself away from it.
Yes.
Because it can be very much on you.
Yes.
I talked about before to the pastors' wives about burnout. Burnout is real. It's real. If you don't get a hold to that balance in your life, you will burn out.
Yes. And
you are good for nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody. And so we're going to talk about, how to take care of self. Self-care is going to be essential for a pastor's wife because we do have so many different things that we're going through.
We're always pouring out. We're always taking up the slack. We're always encouragers, motivators, grandmamas, mamas. So we need that time where we can just breathe with one another and just let our hair down and just laugh or cry or scream, whatever it is we need to do to come back more energized and ready to take on and continue to walk in what God's called us to do. Let's talk a little bit about our faith, our marriage, and leadership. How has faith been a source of strength during those ups and downs as a pastor's wife?
Well, let me just give you an example of how I had to pull on faith. September 7th, 2014, my husband had a stroke, a major stroke. And we were actually out of town. We were in Virginia Beach area. And I didn't know that he was actually having that stroke. But he basically told me to call 911. He looked fine to me. And so me being there, watching all of this, I had to pull on faith to believe that God was going to keep my husband. And so he went through a lot. You know, he had to go into the hospital. He didn't even know that he had the stroke because the things that he was experiencing, he was still able to walk and talk and different things like that. But the doctor told him he had just had it whenever they took him through the testing and everything. So the next morning he woke up and he couldn't move his right side. So that's when I had to kick in that faith.
Wow.
I had to kick in what we've been talking about.
Yeah. Yes.
I had to kick in because some of the members had came up by then, so they had to look at me as the pastor's wife. What you gonna do now?
Wow.
So I had to pull on the faith of God to believe that this man is not gonna die,
Yes. Yes.
but he shall live
Come on.
and declare.
Come on.
Ibasha, my
Yes.
God, the works
Come on.
of the Lord.
Yes.
And I had to keep believing God that although that right side was gone, although he couldn't really talk the next day, I had to keep believing God that though he slay me, yet I'm going to trust him.
Yes.
That this man of God
Yes.
that's been preaching the word of God
Come on.
is going to come out of this.
Yes.
And so, of course, it was a long year getting him back to where he needed to be. He was in rehab after rehab, and we had to just stand and believe God by faith.
Wow.
And so that was one of the most challenging things that I had to ever go through, and then had to deal with my daughter with it.
Yeah.
But we came through because of faith.
That is amazing. Did you hear that, pastors' wives? You know, the scripture that came to my mind was, so let patience have its perfect work,
Yes.
that you may be complete and lacking nothing. And so that's what you did. You grabbed hold to that faith that God placed in you as a
Yes.
pastor's wife, and prayed your husband through.
I did.
You really prayed him through. Tell us how he's doing now.
He is amazing, preaching like a
Amen.
wild man.
Come on, pastors' wives. Give God praise for that. Come on.
Yes, I'm telling you, the Lord will allow you to go through certain tests and
Yes.
trials
Yes.
so you can triumph.
That is so
My
good.
God.
So, Jacqueline, tell me what you hope pastors' wives will take away from the secret society of a pastor's wife.
Well, one thing I want them to take away, that they have an identity, that they should know who they really are.
That's good.
I want them to know that in their identity is strength. In their identity is hope.
Yes.
And in that their identity is courage.
I love that.
And so I want them to understand that during this podcast, if they listen into it, they are going to gain those. The strength, the hope, and the courage to become that pastor's wife. You know, some people have been, being a pastor's wife for a while. For instance, like you, Pastor Palmer.
Yes.
What actually, give us something that you've gone through that, required your faith to be elevated.
Oh, wow. So my husband and I have been pastoring for over 30 years. Actually, this year we'll be celebrating 30 years of pastoring. And I think as I look back over my life, Pastor Jacqueline, I think about the challenges that we faced as a young couple. We were young, we were in our 20s when we started our ministry. And I think about walking that pastor's wife role alone, not having anyone to encourage me, not having anyone to correct me, because I made some heavy mistakes as a pastor's wife. I came in guns blazing, and that's not the way you want to come into a ministry when you're supposed to be there to help people. And so I think that the challenges helped me grow into the woman that God wanted me to be, to refine me so that I would learn how to be seasoned you know, and not be, still keep my firecracker nature, but learn how to become all things to all people. So I think that was one of the best lessons that I learned from being a pastor's wife.
Wow. It's funny because you said you came in, you know, we all are immature, you know, especially 20s and different things like that. I believe a lot of us pastors' wives have came into ministry immature, not knowing who we are, what we're supposed to do, and different things like that. And so, I mean, tell me your relationship with your husband now after 30 years. I mean, I celebrate you and him.
Thank you.
You know, because 30 years in ministry is a long time.
Yes, yes. Well, that's my boo. I still call him my boo. I still get goosebumps when he walks in a room. When he looks in my eyes, I still melt. You know, one of the things that I think was great about our relationship is we became friends.
Yes.
From the beginning. He is my best friend. There's nothing that I wouldn't share with my husband. There's not a secret in this world that I wouldn't reveal to him. And I know that he does the same with me. So I think that that's what helped us we are in this together.
Right.
He always says this to everybody wherever we go. Whatever me and my wife are doing, we're in this together. If you see her, you see me, and vice versa. So I think that's what helped us remain faithful and dedicated, not only to the call of ministry, but to each other.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you see so many pastors' wives that are separated.
Yes, yes.
You know, and that's a problem, you know, because they have not, I believe they just hadn't put the Lord in the middle of their relationship.
Yes.
And so thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay. So, first question, this could be to both of you. No particular order. If you could answer and give 3 things that a new pastor's wife needs to know stepping into a role tomorrow, like literally tomorrow is her first day on the job. 3 things she needs to know. You don't have time to give her a long, you know, mentorship program opportunity. Just gotta give her 3 things right now so that she can survive. What would those things be?
Okay, I'll go first. The first thing can I move?
Yeah,
okay.
You can.
The first thing I would give a new pastor's wife when they step into the role and you are on the job for tomorrow, the first thing I would tell you is you better know how to pray. The second thing I would tell you, ask God for some power. And then the third thing, ask the Lord for patience. Because those are the 3 things that you're going to need as a pastor's wife in order to be in that position to make sure that you support and walk alongside of your husband.
That's great.
That's good. And I would say the first thing that came to my mind was relax. You know, breathe. It's going to be okay. Always communicate with your husband as the second thing, how you're feeling. And number 3, you have to take care of yourself. Because this is a journey you're going to be on for the rest of your life, and you've got to be well on this journey.
What's the craziest story as a pastor's wife that you've seen that you could share on a podcast without information? And no names.
This is good.
Nothing. You got to give us a short summary because I know some of these stories could be. But yeah, situation that you've been in, something that you observed. I'm sure something comes to mind.
No names.
No names.
Yeah, it comes to mind. Go ahead.
Okay, the first one, well, it's only one. Let me just say this. Because I deal with so many different pastors' wives, and they do call me for different, various different things that may even be going on in the church. And you probably know this, so I'm not going to say any names, but we did have one pastor's wife. You may be out there listening, but I'm not saying your name. But she fought one of the members and the Christmas tree fell over in the church. And I thought that was not cool. You know, that you was upset with this member and you actually fought him and the whole Christmas tree fell over. I thought that was just very uncool, but yet it was funny to me.
That is good. And the one that comes to my mind is there was a member in our church years ago who wrote a letter to me and my husband, well, really to me, saying that she had a dream that my husband wanted her. And that she knew this because when she came to church on Sundays, he never spoke to her. So that meant that he wanted her.
Oh my God.
And so I had a meeting with her, and I acknowledged she was beautiful. I said, sweetheart, you are the bomb.com. But let me tell you something. You can't keep my man because your intellect is not on the level he's on. He wants a woman who can relate to politics, to the weather, to English, to science, whatever it is. And if you can't do that, you can't stimulate him at all. So that was one of my stories.
That was a good one.
I said,
Oh my God.
You look good. He'd be attracted to that. But once he got you home, he'd send you back because your intellect ain't nowhere with you.
He would be bored.
He would be so bored, he wouldn't be interested in you anymore.
But it's amazing how these women dream. How you gonna dream?
That my husband is your man.
Yes.
And that he wants you.
Exactly.
What's the immediate impact that you have felt on your family being in the position that you are as a pastor's wife, as far as the positives and the negatives, and then also if you could speak to the impact that it's had on your extended family, positives and negatives.
Okay. Well, let me talk about the negatives first. The negative impact that being a pastor's wife is my daughter, as she was growing up, she did not have all of her mommy. She wasn't able to embrace me the way that, I felt that she should have embraced me, because she felt like, because it was, so many other members, other people involved, people were always over our house. She didn't have that alone time like she wanted to with her mom. And she talks about that today, where, the church, and so that was a negative impact that I had to really step back and look at concerning my daughter. The positive, on the other hand, is, she had a mom who prayed for her, a mom who, was able to help her scripturally, who was able to understand her because of who I am as a pastor's wife. So she had a mom that she could really, just share her thoughts with. That was something positive for her, that, she was able to come to me, although the negative impact was she didn't have me by herself, all alone. But the positive, she gained other sisters and brothers. In the ministry, they took care of her. She had her own armor bearer. So she enjoyed that, having that relationship with the members as well. As far as my extended family, most of my extended family is not in the Maryland area. So the positive, they come to me for prayer. They come to me for counseling. They come to me for, just, hey, Auntie, where's that scripture in the Bible? They respect that position. And, I believe that they're excited for me, but yet when we have vacations, when we have family reunions, I got to be at church. When we have get-togethers, we have siblings, sisters getaways. Sometimes I can't go. So that is something that's negative, even on their end, because they can't have me whenever they want me. They have to wait to see what my schedule is. And so I believe that's negative impact, because, we've been in ministry 17 years, and, I would have loved to spend more time with my extended family. But because of ministry, we could not just up and go. Now, in June, I am going on an extended vacation with them in Tampa, Florida with the whole family. So that is a positive.
That's good. And for me, I think the positive is, for your family, your immediate family, you get to serve God together. You do everything, and my children work with us in ministry. My grandchildren are there. So I think that's a positive thing. They get to learn about who God is through your lens, but then also learning who God is for themselves. The negative of that, I think about how PK's children,
Yes.
You've developed all these relationships for years with people in your ministry. And if somebody leaves that your children are connected to, they kind of disconnect themselves from your children.
Wow.
And, I can remember my son saying, well, why don't they want to be my friend anymore just because they don't come to our church? And my grandchildren say to this
Wow.
day, Christian used to work for our business. And Christian, of course, we love Christian. And Christian left the business. And my grandchildren said, oh, does that mean he's leaving the church too? Because they're equating that with if somebody walks out on
Wow.
you, they're going to leave every part of you. So I think that's some of the downside
Wow.
to being a pastor and his wife.
And of course I did not.
Of course, Christian did not. They just thought he was, but he did not. He did not leave us. And I think for my extended family, some of the positives is they called me. Just like you said, Pastor Jay, they call for prayer. They call for advice. They have dreams, and they know I interpret dreams. They'll call me about dreams they've had to give them an interpretation of it. I think the negative of that is they're afraid to be themselves around me because they feel that I'm going to judge.
Yes.
And I'm not. I'm going to love them no matter
Yes.
what. But of course, they're on guard when they're around me because I'm the pastor. I'm the pastor's wife, and so they want to make sure that they represent well. But I feel like they're not being themselves when they do that.
Wow, that's a good one.
Pastor Jacqueline, I just want to thank you so much for inviting me to be here with you today for the Secret Society of Pastors' Wives. Pastors' Wives, I am so excited that you're going to tune in to listen to this podcast. We need it. We need one another. Pastor Jacqueline always says there's no First Lady left behind, and she really means that. She wants to make sure that you are strengthened, that you are encouraged, and that you are edified, and most of all, empowered to do the will of God for your life. So ladies, there's no subject off limits for us on the Secret Society for Pastors' Wives, and we hope you tune in and join us. We'll see you next time.